they're gathering all these monks together. We get a lot of back and forth and chitter chatter about all these different people, all these different ministers. And if it's confusing to you, ding, 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 good, because keeping all those names straight and all the offices straight and this minister and this department and that department and all, like, you need a flow chart. It's confusing for a reason, because bureaucracy is confusing, because it is another form of satire, that these people are running around in all of these little departments and all of these little jobs and all of these little tiny internecine conflicts within them. It's absurd on a certain level. So there's that going on. But when they gather all the monks together, and the one bodhisattva stands up and says, "You guys are talking about Buddhism, but you're only talking about the one little aspect of it. You're not really looking at the big picture. Venerable teacher, please pardon your pupil for much disrespect. I only know that the priests who came before me all talk about the teachings of the little vehicle. I have no idea what the great vehicle teaches." What this seems to be is saying that, well, all right, the little vehicle apparently is about individual morality, about making sure that you are at one with the way of the divine force in the universe, or some such notion as that. I don't want to get too into the theological weeds here, but this woman, and it's a woman here, this Buddhist is coming out and saying, yeah, but there's a problem. We know about that one little aspect of it, but what about the larger picture, the bigger picture with everybody else? The great vehicle, which is about care for others. Others makes me think that we're talking about more than one person. If we're talking about more than one person, we're talking about two or more. Or more can be many more. Or more could mean an entire society, an entire civilization. And so we are suddenly going from talking about the narrow concerns of a single individual, and we're talking more about the broader concerns of a whole society. So that is the impulse for this journey. Now, she's saying that we don't have enough writings about this particular aspect of Buddhism, and that sparks the idea that, well, we got to go get some of those writings, and that is the jumping off point for the plot itself of why this monk is going to go traversing all over Asia to find these documents, to find these scriptures, these sutras. But think about that conflict again. It's not accidental. It's not just, gee, I wish we had some more books to read. That's an easy little, general thing that they could have just thrown in there. But they chose specifically this conflict between the concerns of the one versus the concerns of everyone. And that says something to me. That tells me that this book, this adventure, this journey is about addressing everyone. Individuals within it, yes, but it is seeking a broader concept for how to knit together all those individuals and put it in some sort of a balance between the individual and the social. And so again, that emphasis on society, on civilization, on bringing everybody together is hammered in always. And being alive to that, I think, is significant. Being alive to those little details, to recognize like, oh, they're saying that again, is important. The little details tell an awful lot. They are not accidental. When there is a send-off ceremony and the emperor goes and sprinkles a little dirt in the wine That is odd. That is peculiar. But that whole section is itself also kind of interesting on a couple of levels. The emperor tries to give the monk some wine, and the monk thinks for a second about refusing. He does not drink. Chang'en dared not refuse. He took the wine and was about to drink. He thought about it. He dared not. He said no. And the phrasing is really great here, which you can't get into diction too much in the translation, especially from such disparate languages. But he refused. So that means he thought about refusing. That means he considered it. That means he was tempted to say, no, 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 I'm sorry, I don't drink. But he recognized who he was speaking to. And sure, there's an element of, I'm speaking to the emperor, the most powerful man in Asia. You do what the guy says. But it is also a sign of cooperation. He took his personal, individual beliefs, which is, I don't drink, and sacrificed them to the public role that he was fulfilling as a emissary of the emperor in this moment. He knew that his behavior had a symbolic value beyond his individual perspective here. And so he went forward with it. So that's interesting. Again, the conflict between the individual and the social, between the public and the private. Some tension, but you see the deference to, well, we're just going to go along, because that would be the proper thing to do. Propriety is significant here. But then the emperor sprinkles a handful of dirt with his fingers and sprinkle it in the wine. They are holding this little ceremony in eastern China. I believe the city of Chang'en, and the capital. And they are sending this monk off into the foreign world to go retrieve something and bring it back. And the emperor might conceivably say, well, okay, we want you to go and get this stuff, but we don't want you to lose track of who you are. We want you to remember where you're from. So I am going to take this little patch of dirt from where you're from and make you ingest it, imbibe it, make it become part of you to remind you where you're from. Don't go off and go native with those nuts over there. Go get what you need, bring it back. Keep it in perspective, because you are from here. And we're going to make you carry that little patch of soil from this town. We're going to make you carry that in your bowels. You know? The thing that first struck me, and again, there are no right or wrong answers here, but the thing that first struck me with that was the mixture of the wine and the dirt. I found interesting along a sort of a spiritual framework. Wine has, in many cultures around the world, always been associated with a kind of spiritualism. You have a little wine, you get a little lightheaded. In certain respects, you very literally, well, not literally, but you very figuratively drift up into the clouds. But many cultures many religions incorporate wine as an element of their ceremonial practices. You don't have to look very far for those. So there is an association with spiritualism with wine. But then to take the earth, the material world, and mix it with that spiritual world, there is a symbolic importance to that. Because the whole idea of this journey is, again, to find some sort of mixture to validate a kind of expansive, universal approach to religion and identity. We are not all just spirit that denies their physical reality, as many of the Taoists and Buddhists to a degree would. But we are also not all just earth. We have that spiritual element. We are not just material. We have a soul. And that conflict is played out repeatedly in this book, repeatedly, trying to bring all of those disparate beliefs, all of those disparate predispositions, all of those disparate identities within the society and bring them together into a single repository of identity. You might be a Buddhist, you might be a Confucian, you might be a Taoist, you might be any one of those or 1,000 other options within, but we are all Chinese. We are all one in that respect. And for an emperor, or for anybody with a nationalist perspective, they want to emphasize that and say, okay, let's think that's the big picture. You can be who you want as an individual within a pluralistic society. But one thing we have to have as a baseline is that we are all the same in this identity. Because otherwise, the emperor is just running different little empires within his broader empire. He doesn't want to be a territorial magistrate saying, okay, those people need this and I'm going to, do what I can for them. These people need that and I'll try and deal with those people on their terms. He is trying to propagate the idea of a more universal identity. And the art is doing the same thing. Now you can argue, like I said at the beginning, the art might be propaganda just trying to stitch together the society, but from the beginning of time, quite frankly, from the beginning of civilization at least, you have art trying to bring people together, to come together in some sort of shared experience that really only art can provide, The tradition of oral storytelling here, I think, is very much at play, where all of these little stories, all these little adventure stories, things that grandmas tell their grandkids when they're tucking them in at night, magical stories that make you go, ooh, and all the little kids gather around and say, yeah, tell us another one. Or in a contemporary sense, something we're losing, going to a movie theater, and you get that thrill when you're sitting there telling a story and everybody reacts at once and goes, wow, that was so cool. Something you don't get when you're just streaming at home on the couch alone. There is a shared value to enjoying a story, to enjoying art. There are all these videos out there of, reactions. Somebody will take out their phone at like a big shock reveal or something like that in a hit movie, and you hear the whole audience go, oh my God, yeah! And that gets posted online, and 1,000 people a day see that and just go, whoa, that is so cool. Because it brings us together. And that for some people and for some works of art is more important than any individual belief system within there. It transcends the individual.